Calvin T. Mann, leading Emmy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to Emiy Tv podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Well, good afternoon, everybody out there in beautiful Toyland. Shout out to the dads. Shout out to Father's Day, and shout out to those who took Father's Day to another level. We understand that this is a place and this is an opportunity to really celebrate dads, and we continue to do that. Today had a great interview today at 12 o'clock in Maryland, and our guest is in the building. But first, let's bring in the queen.
Good day, good people.
Heather Hetaru is in the building with us today, and El Booger here to do his thing. And we're going to have an interesting conversation today about domestic violence and AIDS and information. You're going to get a lot of information. You're going to hear a great story from a great sister, Carolyn Washington from Sisters4Sisters.org out of Maryland, sharing her story, her fight, her reasons, and we're excited about this today to get some more information, because like most of us, we are in blind spots when it comes to domestic violence and AIDS. We think we just like we do with suicide, we try to gloss it over. It's not and you can't gloss it over. And so, welcome, Miss Carolyn Washington.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much. And happy Father's Day to you, my brother. I hope you had a good one.
Yes, I did. I didn't get treated too bad. They didn't throw me out like Scooby-Doo. They treated me pretty good, and you know, we just had a great overall day. I got to laugh with my brothers, and you know, went to church and saw some old cars, and you know, nibbled on some popcorn. I did some things that kind of broke my little diet for a second, and just for a second, I didn't gain anything. So God is good. And so I'm continuously monitoring the weight loss thing, Sister Carolyn. So I'm down, and I want to keep going down till I can put on an extra large again and get back to playing basketball and all of that. But more important is you. This is your time, your day. This is your moment. We want to make sure that you put out and share with us as much information as possible. We find it, like I said, we find it very, very important to share solutions and information here on Emiy TV, and that's what we do. And so we're going to take it from the top. Tell everyone who is Carolyn Washington and what she does.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, Heather, it's nice to meet you. I'm very glad to be here today with you all. I am.
Thank you.
Definitely.
You too.
Just trying to help women live and soar and win. I am a woman from a small town called Fayetteville, North Carolina. And if you've ever heard of Fort Bragg or the 82nd Airborne, that's where I'm from, by way of Washington, D.C. I came to D.C. to attend Howard University, where, of course, when you walk those hallways, there's a certain so I am my kids say I'm a feminist, but I'm an activist for women and girls empowerment.
Awesome. Okay. And she's in the middle of the freeze.
In the areas of HIV, AIDS, domestic violence, girls mentoring, mental health, and of course, wellness, heart health for women, and homelessness. So we achieve these goals by working with other like minded women and men in our community through all types of programs that our organization hosts on a regular basis so that we can bring awareness, so that we can bring prevention and education our community. You said something really, really important in terms of solution oriented. I am definitely a faith warrior, a prayer warrior, love the Lord, but faith without works is dead. And I believe in putting actions and boots to the ground and getting it done. So, again, my passion is to see all women win and families, of course, come together. And that's what drives me is seeing families come together, but most of all, seeing women reach their highest level of potential and be safe.
Wow. Yes, we need that, and we're glad that you're doing that because the object, as we were having that conversation today, the last thing you said, be safe. And that is going to
Mm-hmm.
trigger this conversation right into because Sister Carolyn, I am very, if that's okay, considering the doctor, we've been doing it this way for a while. So, I, what's the best words that I could use for this? I despise hearing when men put their hands on women, right? It really, when we was young, it's a small story. We were young. My brother was headed that way, and me and my brothers, we wasn't buying it, and he tried to make that move in front of my mother, and my youngest brother jumped in the back seat, and we all hopped the fence, and he no longer is that type of way, right? And he understands that, right? He understands that's what you can't do. Now, some of us use our words, but please enlighten us, people, on the signs and the things about domestic violence so we know to look and help, because I know they are doing all kind of little signals now and things like that. So help us understand domestic violence a little better.
Well, I have to tell you that through this pandemic, there has, of course, been a huge spike and increase in domestic violence incidents, if you will, or intimate partner violence. And that can include a number of things. But one of the signs is if you are involved with a person who is overly um, manipulative or control the extent that they want to not just to compliment you, but to tell you what to wear, what not to wear. When they take you from your family or your friends and you're isolated, you don't communicate as much. You're asked not to communicate as much. Someone who's actually taking control of your finances, who's telling you how to spend your money or controlling your finances overall and altogether. These are just some of the few indications. It can also be sexual, where they pretty much dictate when you all are intimate and they forcibly take what they want with you, even though you're in a relationship. When you say no, no means no, when they pretty much try to, again, control and let you know that they are the ones that you have to report to for any activity, when they stalk you, when they're calling you and texting you all day on your social media, and also stalking you on social media, making comments. Oh, I see, this gentleman is giving you a certain amount of attention. That's a sign. Sometimes as women, we want to be loved and adored, and that's one thing. But when they are texting you 24 hours, 7 days a week, they want to know your every move. That's a sign. It's not cute, it's not love, and it's not adoration. It is most definitely control and something you should be concerned about. These are some of the initial and red flags that we, as a community of women and men, because men are also in a situation. I have a gentleman right now that is not a client, but someone I've observed and known for 30 years. And he is absolutely one of the strongest men I know, but he can't go anywhere without his partner knowing his whereabouts. And whenever he's out with her, she calls, not with her, she's constantly calling, where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing? Those are indicators. So be very careful.
Mm. So, so getting into the various signs, those obvious signs that really perpetuate this violence, right? Removing you, that's a classic move. Having you pit against your own family, removing, and what's incredible is, when you look at intimate partner violence, there was a thing. I think I shared this with you before, but the one thing that I'm recognizing is on the male side, right, is the violence when men are perpetuating. Like in Maryland, I think it was Maryland or Baltimore, the guy wasn't seeing his kids. He videotaped. A video camera even went live and killed the women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is a phenomenon here. I'm seeing it here, even more so where men are literally doing that, right? But and they're
Mm-hmm.
when they can't fight with the court, they use violence, right? And they're using it
Mm-hmm.
in solving these problems. But back to your points, the stalking, the controlling, the isolating, like what is the signs, Carolyn? Like if I'm at a restaurant and this person is in trouble, you kind of can see it. What am I to look for to help them, right? Because we don't want to really put ourselves in harm's way, but we want to be able to help because also along with that domestic violence is the
Trafficking.
trafficking.
Human trafficking.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of it, the trafficking and domestic violence and sexual violence, which are areas we work on. They are absolutely some of the hottest things going on, especially trafficking here in the Maryland area. That's really, really, the numbers are astronomical. And again, I keep saying post pandemic and also as we're in the pandemic, it is ever increasing. What are some of the signs? I mean, I'm just going to be real. We had a situation perhaps 2 months ago where a young lady happened to run into an Uber driver or one of the Lyft drivers, and they knew about our organization and called and said, can you help this lady? She's running for her life. She came here. She had been dating a doctor for a while, met him online, and she came here a couple of times. And this particular time, he tried to take advantage of her and really put her into a trafficking situation. And she didn't know how she was going to get home. So she ran, and we were able to get her back. The signs are whenever you go into a place and you see a woman who's looking around and just got that innate feeling that something in this picture isn't right. In those cases, it depends if you're a man or a woman. You can slip her a little note. You can look at her and say, give her an acknowledgement. But the sad reality of the situation is the fact that a lot of women that are in some of these cases are not ready to be free. They are not ready to walk away. And it's many incidents, I can't even tell you how many, where we've gone to support women through various court proceedings because it takes a lot of courage. Most of all, it takes a village because the women are intimidated, they're afraid, and sadly, 7 to 9 times the woman is faced with leaving. She goes back and forth 7 to 9 times.
Mm.
That is the average. So while you're out there and you're working with some of the folks that may potentially be in harm's way, there's certain little signs and indicators, but they may not know, but you may just be very pleasant. You may go, if you're a woman, excuse yourself to the ladies' room or say something to her to say, can you help me with something? And then when you get her in the ladies' room, you ask her, are you okay? And again, there are some cases where you can get help. Well, you can get help all the time, but sometimes they'll say, "Yeah, I do need help," but most times they're not ready. So it's a process. So what we always indicate is to be very safe, because human trafficking is now one of the number one crimes out here. And so with that said, we have to, as advocates and activists, we have to be very strategic. We have to be very wise, while we're trying to help some of the women and young people. And even there are men that, again, are facing, intimate partner dating. And so we have to approach them from a different angle, because many of them feel, because I know a couple of cases, and these are men you would never, ever, ever, ever suspect. But you always have to be open, you always have to be sensitive, and you have to be non judgmental, because you don't want people to
Right.
find themselves not wanting to share, not wanting to be honest. So try to be very careful in your approach and try to be very sensitive to the situation.
Man, that's important, Miss Heather. Do you have?
When you were speaking, I was thinking about just some example, verbally assault, the use of our words, and cut deep, and we can push sometimes to people to their limits. And so I think sometimes we forget, and we have an expectation that men are going to be, that they are not going to respond physically to us no matter what we do. And I think that's an unfair assessment. I think that women shouldn't push men to that point any more than they should push women to that point where we're responding and violence, or continuing to antagonize. So again, what we can do as those people who love and care for them is we can bring it to their attention. We can share that, these are symptoms, and I've done that before. I printed out information and shared information. These things are being said or done, whether you're doing it yourself or it's being done to you, that this puts you in this space. And at some point, you have to make a choice about, what's going to be healthy for you, especially if you have children involved, especially when you don't want to repeat cycles or are repeating cycles on your own. I think that's really important that we have that, and that we do our own research. That's another important thing. What am I going through? What am I expressing where I'm in this situation, where I find myself in this situation? I think that's important. How do we reassess, and how do we reset? And I think this is another key area that we sometimes forget. We can choose what we want to do today. We can choose today. And so you can choose to be different. You can choose to change your mind. You can choose every day. And as long as you have the breath and the strength to do so, you always can make that choice. And I think we need to encourage each other in that space too. You can change. You can get help. You can reach out. We always share the suicide prevention.
It's real.
Absolutely.
It is real, and it's because a lot of it is because how do we handle our emotions, right? All this brokenness, man. Like, it's very, very tough. You grow up. Okay, that's her son trying to have her join me. Go ahead.
So I think one of my books that will be coming out this fall is called Surgically Altered. And it looks at the generational scars that we carry. So, and gives us some tools on how we can start to mend those deep wounds. And so our deep wounds are just that, very deep. And so what we have to do is we have to heal from the inside out. And so Surgically Altered is really a lot of tools for how we can heal and the different types of wounds. So the wounds that we carry, each one of those wounds, the scars that we carry, that's what happens when you see it on the surface, when you see it when it's in its healing state, we get to see the scars. When there are wounds, that means when you touch them, it still hurts. When those triggers happen, it still hurts, and it sends us in a different direction, whether off the course of something that's more positive and something that's more reaffirming. And so, the more of our wounds that we start to heal from the inside out, the more healthy we are in our relationships, the more prosperous we are in our journey, the more open we are to new opportunities, the less fear we have in those spaces. Because in the deeper part of the wound is fear. It could be fear of exposure. That's fear of somebody else finding out about some of the traumas that we faced, and some of the things that we didn't have the courage to shift or change. Again, being able to heal those deeper wounds is really essential to a healthy living. And so I want to break this down, and I know that I do this from time to time. When you look at the word health, take out HEAL. So whether that's health, healthy relationships, healthy body, it means heal thy body, heal thy relationship. I think that's really essential.
We're adding her through the live.
Okay.
As soon as she is adding.
So I think that that's one of the tools that we're able to connect to.
Go. Good. So you can see us now. I can see you. Can you hear me, Dr. Washington?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
So,
yay.
yeah, so we'll keep it rolling. And so right, because he's dealing with it. So the process for what you're talking about. So we shared the 1-800 number, but I want to kind of move us toward the AIDS conversation, and and we're not having a hard stop. So we're gonna bang this, right? We're gonna bang this past our time, right? Right, and so yes, ma'am. So I just wanted to make sure that we get this in. So you're in this, you see domestic violence, and now which one came first? Was it AIDS or was it the domestic violence that got you really up in arms?
That's a good question. I think what really started this whole process was the domestic violence, because the way I entered this space was after losing my aunt and my uncle. She was leaving my uncle to return to North Carolina after being in a very unhealthy relationship. And she prepared to leave that evening on the train and told my uncle. And that's when she was killed, and there was a murder-suicide. And this happened back in the 70s, and it changed the whole pattern in my family in terms of accepting loss. And her children were my very first friends. Your cousins, if you don't have siblings, I'm an only child, they become your first real friends. And so my cousins changed dramatically. And that's when I first realized just how devastating domestic violence can be on the entire village. The whole family's impacted. My cousins took up a life of drugs and crime, and my female cousin, who was my peer, she became very, very promiscuous. A lot of things happened, and our whole family structure changed. So I have to say that was the first piece that got me started, because I didn't want to see this happen to anyone else. It was actually the first time I ever saw my mother, who was probably one of the strongest people I know, ever cry. She was in tears. She was devastated. The whole family was just shocked, because we never heard of a murder-suicide before.
Right.
My aunt was going away to be safe, when in fact, for all the women that are listening, or men, leaving your abuser is the most dangerous time. You careful, very prayerful, and very strategic. Once you tell your controlling abuser that you're leaving, that's when they resort to violence. So you have to be very, very careful at that time.
Dr. Washington, do you even suggest saying that you're leaving?
I'm sorry, I'm hearing some feedback. I'm sorry, what was your question?
I said, do you even suggest telling your abuser that you're leaving?
No.
Right.
I would suggest you not tell your abuser.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that you have a plan. First of all, have a partner, someone in your family or your friends that can hold your very important information, copies of your social security card, copy of any kind of insurance, birth certificate, school records for your children, anything like that that you confide in someone. Here in Maryland, we have a project called Safe at Home, and that is a place where you can actually escape without them being able to trace you. It's very, very critical that you move with caution and care, because again, this is the heightened time where you can actually face homicide. And the state, or actually the county that I reside, Prince George's County, which is beautiful, but it is actually has the number one rate of homicides relating to domestic or intimate partner relationships. Wow. So you have to be very, very careful. And I work with a number of families that have lost loved ones, and in the past there were patterns that were reported, and now we have noticed first-time offenses leading to homicide. So you may not have a long track record of activity where people are actually indicating that there's an down. So with that said, I hold very careful navigated from really terrorist fraternity. If you are one way for acting a bit, who is not mad about campus as well. And unfortunately, often I couldn't understand how could this a gentleman why wasn't anybody talking about it. This is a serious situation. Those are and then my cousin, who was my mentor of homicides as well in domestic violence cases. Now, in terms of HIV and AIDS, I got involved because one of my girlfriends from college, beautiful, from Ohio, smart, dated a gentleman on campus that was handsome, and they had everything that you would think would make for a great couple. She was an engineering student. She was just really, really a great team. Well, it turns out after graduation, when I tried to connect with her, really helped guide me on this path of education and all that campus. These masks, this was in the 80s, and I said, okay, to understand that there was a secret in our community that nobody wanted to talk about. It taken the life of my girlfriend, who I really, really, I admired her so much, and my mentor, who I admired. But it was such a, people were dying of spreading the disease, spreading the virus. And so we got involved in educating our community of women and girls about the prevention, education, and awareness of HIV and AIDS. And so that's kind of how I got started. So they were both around the same, but kind of not. The reality is losing my aunt and uncle was the beginning. And at that time, I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. But that's when I got started.
Wow.
You are taking on you know, you said some things earlier today, but you are taking on a number of issues, right? And you're doing it successfully. And I'm just so, you know, proud to have this, you know, building this relationship with you. But I with this AIDS, what are we seeing now? I know they experimented because, you know, it's funny. I got a story as a young man back in the day. Remember, I was telling you about the White House. So I had this White House, Carolyn, and I partied for 80-something straight days, right? And it was crazy. After getting kicked out of college, I decided, you know what? I get a house and I partied for 80 some straight days at this house. It was almost like Animal House. I already wrote the story. It's really huge. It's hilarious. It's about, and the truth is, it was about a black guy, a Chinese guy, a Philippine guy, a white guy, and a whole summer where we literally from May to October, we just went crazy. I'm talking about we did any and everything we wanted. But a friend of ours, where we used to go do these dance routines, got caught up on crack, and so what he started doing was to go see his mom. He would trick with bus drivers. And so he ended up with AIDS. And he ended up dying from AIDS. And what I saw from the funeral, the family, what it did to that family was mind-blowing. So the stepmother throwing out the toilet and just all kinds of things that really you couldn't imagine, right? The family, not, the casket being set a certain way, no one wants to touch. Like, I saw it all, right? But they have come a long way. What are some of the I guess the medicines, because the United States we are a pill nation. We have become a pill nation for greed, in my opinion. But for the audience, what are some of the solutions and the good news, helping those people with AIDS and HIV?
Yeah, well, there is some good news. There's some new discoveries that are out, but there's something that a lot of people are really excited about, and it's called PrEP. PrEP is a daily pill that provides you or prevents you from contracting the HIV virus. You can take it every day. This is for sex workers or for people with a certain lifestyle. You can take this pill every day to prevent, and it's called PrEP. So if you reach out to your local health department or your doctor, you may be able to get prescribed the PrEP, which I'm sure you would be able to if you fit a certain criteria. Along with that, of course, we talk about abstinence. We talk about condoms. For years, we worked with BET with the Wrap It Up campaign. We talked about that. But the reality is the fact that you have to make better choices. I look at some of the celebrities that are out here with multiple children, and I wonder, oh my goodness, do you all know that you're running the risk of contracting the HIV/AIDS virus, because it is still live. And sadly, because of course, my goal is for women to win, no matter what.
That's right.
Our sisters have the highest incidence of new HIV/AIDS cases in proportion to the number of women in the country. We're number one in that rating, which is not good news. But when we make better choices in our relationships and be healthy and be like, wrap it up, protect yourself, because it is real. Somebody said to me, very educated, affluent sister, is very brilliant. She said, "Wow, I thought AIDS was over because I hadn't heard anything about it. I thought it was over." No, but when it started hitting our community, we started hearing less about it. When it was in other communities, that's when it was just full push. But Sisters for Sisters is very proud to work with our health department to provide education and prevention programs to help our community continue to be educated and continue to be safe. Because while the vaccine that we've recently encountered with COVID, it's been important, it's still important that we stay safe
Indeed.
from HIV and AIDS.
Dr. Washington, I have a question and a comment too. Have you seen? So in our area, there is a epidemic among our elders with HIV and AIDS, and we know part of that is because they live in senior communities, and it's a really big issue. It has been for years here, because one of the organizations I work with elders, and I have a partner right now, a community partner right now, and that's her work. So she works with the elders and all forms of education, but especially around awareness around HIV and AIDS. And so, but they don't want to wear condoms. They don't want to use those protective factors, and because I think part of the way that it's spreading here is because you have the older older communities, the senior community, but they're engaging with younger people as well, and so they don't just leave it in those spaces. Then they, especially with the men, because they're engaging with younger girls and younger women, and they come out and then they're in the community too, and that's how it's continuing to pass. So that education piece, have you seen public service announcements? What have you seen to be able to help us with this awareness issue?
Well, definitely what you're stating is a truth, and that's affecting us here and I think across the country.
Okay.
But it's nice to know it's not just here.
Oh, yeah. It's a pandemic in senior communities. Yes.
Viagra.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Right.
I want to say. That blue pill has caused more heartache,
more trouble
than I can tell you.
Yeah.
That blue pill, because when our brothers receive their pension or Social Security or retirement, that's when they go out and they spend time with some of our younger sisters, and our younger sisters are getting money for hanging with them.
Right.
And then in the senior living communities, I don't even want to tell you the story because we work with senior communities as well, and sadly, our brothers are going from Miss Bessie on floor number 1 to Miss Jennifer on floor number 4, and then Miss Alicia on floor number 5. So they're moving all over the building.
Yes.
And they're spreading.
So even in our old age, we still hoeing. Excuse my language, but that's what we still running that game. That's what my mother would call it back in the day. That was the term from back in the day.
I mean, you don't lose the desire for companionship or physical contact. You don't lose that.
No, especially when you got that blue pill, you back in the game. You back. You like Superman. I'm back.
Yeah, that is. Now, you mentioned public service announcements. We have some commercials that we've done, as well as our health department and some of our AIDS awareness organizations here in the DMV, meaning DC, Maryland, Virginia. And so they have these commercials on our CBS, NBC, and ABC affiliates.
Okay.
So the word is getting out. Yeah.
Because I haven't seen any.
We just did something on Saturday called the Kappa Takeover, where the men of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity had this huge event at the MGM with like 1,300 people, and it was so much, and they flashed different sponsors and messaging. So we, Sisters for Sisters, in our campaign, which is SOS, Saving Our Sisters from HIV/AIDS, we flashed a commercial or message that said, "Stay safe. Do you know your status?" And that was targeted because we knew they were at the all-white party at the hotel, and it was going down at the hotel. So we wanted to make sure that we were in the right place at the right time, sending the message, know your status. Stay safe.
Yes. That's awesome. So, with all that information, give us just a little bit, a glimpse inside the life of Dr. Carolyn Washington. Who are you, and what really, how many children, what is it like for you in doing this work? Because, when you're doing this work, it seems like everybody around you, they think they last when you're really putting them first because you're doing the work. So, share that with us.
Wow, I tell you,
Well, we thank you. Thank you. We're gonna do it again, and you know, we're gonna get it all the way done the right way. But this is just one, so just share with us.
No, this is the right way. You asked me about who I am. It's who God is bringing me into, and that's a new day and a new place. And I have to get used to doing things differently because we are in a different day. The message has to go forth. We don't know who is listening. We don't know who may take this message, and it may save their lives or change their lives. Mm-hmm. So we have to use any means necessary. And I may not be able to be on my laptop, but if you saw it, you would wonder how am I on it anyway. You may not. I have to do things differently. And my message to everyone is be willing to step out of the box if you are in a kingdom building mindset. We are here to build up the kingdom. I am passionate about women winning, but I'm also passionate about men winning. So this month we're celebrating men, but I have to tell you, I've met men that had jobs in various warehouses, one in particular, and he said, I can't take the job because I don't have a uniform. I don't have anything to wear. And my organization sent him a uniform. These are things we do because when the man wins, the whole family wins. Right. So we all got to kind of be in there together. Yesterday we went to the shelter, the only shelter in our community that has men, homeless shelter in our city. And when I put the program together, I didn't know how we would do it, how we would pull it off. But God said, just go for it. So we bought them Bibles and got them outfits, clothing, and things of that nature, which I didn't see happening. But at the very last minute on Saturday, we got a donor who agreed to purchase the food in memory of his father, his foundation, and it's the Quinn Cook Foundation. Quinn is a NBA player. He played for the Los Angeles Lakers when they won their championship. Mm-hmm. He won the championship as well as, what's the team? The Golden State Warriors. He won a championship with them. And he and one of a teammate, another gentleman that plays for another NBA team, they went in that shelter yesterday. They paid for the food, and they took the food in for these men, and the men were so inspired. And his mother owns a staffing company, and they agreed to help them get employment. That's what makes me rise.
Yeah,
that's it.
What makes me happy.
That's it right there. Because if you don't help them, right? When we were talking, you know, we talk about the numbers in right. So in 2018, they built over 200 shelters, none for men. Right? Men are the leaders of homelessness. Right, and so that's great to hear. Quinn Cook, if I'm not mistaken, Quinn Cook played college basketball, either at Chicago or Quinn Cook. He played at Chicago or he played for.
I can't wait to hear what you're gonna come up with.
Or Maryland.
North Carolina in the house, Duke University, yes.
Yep, and he played with Duke University, and he played with. He came in with the Fab Five. Him, the forward, the other point guard, Quinn Cook, came in with them at Duke University. It was 5 of them that came in and played for. And he's got an NCAA championship.
You know it. Yes.
Well, what a blessing.
His foundation honored me maybe 2 years ago, and his mother and I pledged Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated together. She's my line sister. So we just thank God for just the collaboration. You talked about that the other earlier today. It's so critical to collaborate, you know, with good people with the same passion. Yes. And that's what I love about you, my brother. You have passion about what you're doing, and you're making a difference. And you inspire me. You got me up here. I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I tell my son, help me. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, he said, I'm helping my mom.
doctor was Dr. Ben Carson, and I think at Johns Hopkins, who later went on to work with Number 45.
Right.
He was a fantastic doctor.
Yes.
My daughter was born autistic, and she's probably one of the most brilliant women that I know. And she's very, very hands-on, and she helps me. She said, Mom, you need to go to Africa. So we do work in Africa. We do work all around the globe. We've helped women through the pandemic in Ghana as well as Nigeria. And we just, I could not do this without my children. They inspire me. In real talk, I was married for 21 years to a lovely gentleman. It didn't work out. He moved in another direction. But as you know, or if anyone's on my Facebook page, I recognized and honored him for being their father on yesterday during Father's Day. Because although we're not together, family is forever.
Yep.
And our children need to have a healthy representation of, our relationship. And they know we're friends despite what happened. But I'm out here just trying to make a difference. And I give honor to my mother, who taught me as a young girl that I could do anything. And even though people call me crazy.
Welcome to the club.
Right.
You're in the right. You're in good company.
They call me crazy just because I decided to color outside the lines.
Yes.
And I color outside the lines because there was a powerful man who said, I'm good trouble. And John Lewis said good trouble. Because we have to start shaking it up and taking back our community and our families. And we got to do it with passion. We got to do it for a cause and not just the applause. That's not even necessary.
Right.
We need to come back together like our fathers and mothers and ancestors as we celebrate Juneteenth today. We have to go back and we have to do our part to bring our world and our community where we need to be.
It's really up to us. It really is, and this is what we were born to do. This is what we were born for, right? A lot of times we're looking to be born for the $1 million, and everybody yelling and screaming. So now you got that money. Who you helping? How you helping? What difference are you making? Right? We all talking about financial literacy. All right, we getting the financial literacy information, we getting the money, and so now we getting the money, we move into this little cubby hole, and we sit in that little cubby hole. We say, "This is mine, all mine." But then you have great examples like LeBron James and Robert Smith, right? You have these guys that are really, really understanding the power that they possess to make a difference, and so that's kind of what we're striving for. You know what I mean? That's kind of what we're looking at, and that's what you're doing. Like, you are painting the most beautiful picture there is for your community, for your people, and for your family. You can go ahead, brother. You can knock us off. I'm live, right? Mm-hmm. And so